Hello and welcome to Temple Street, the show brought to you by the Department of Communication and Journalism at Suffolk University. I'm Veronica Barber.
I'm Olivia Powers.
And I'm Samantha Crompton. On today's show, we'll report on One Boston Day, the growing conversation about the gender pay gap, and students suffering from eating disorders.
Later, we'll hear about the new spring fashion trends, eating disorders on college campuses, and Suffolk's new Health and Wellness Center. As always, we'll end with our Critics Corner. Olivia, what do you have for us today?
Well, today I'm going to be talking about the changing conversation about equality for gender rights and what the face of feminism looks like today.
That sounds great. I can't wait to hear more. But first, we have more on our top story. April 15th, the date of the Boston Marathon bombing, was recently established as One Boston Day.
Just 2 years after the Boston Marathon bombing, Mayor Marty Walsh has declared April 15th a day to be devoted to the resilience of the city and its residents during a time of tragedy. Siobhan Sullivan and Olivia Powers bring us the story from some of Boston's strongest.
2 years later, and the strength of Boston can still be felt, Mayor Marty Walsh declaring April 15th One Boston Day to honor the spirit of a city tarnished by tragedy. For Bostonians and runners alike, the mayor hopes the day will forever be a celebration of compassion and strength. Dr. Kevin Becker runs the Massachusetts Resiliency Center created to help those impacted by the bombings, and he says One Boston Day is a time for people to join together.
Well, to me personally, it's a tremendous way for the city to heal as part of the healing process. And I think that when communities are traumatized, the opportunities to come together are really important.
Though the day may bring back difficult memories, marathon hero Carlos Arredondo is amazed by the generosity of others.
And it's been overwhelming in their own way, and it's a time to reflect and be grateful for one another, for being kind. Ever since all this tragedy happened, I've been seeing the kindness of human beings.
The city will never forget the events that unfolded on April 15, 2013, but believes One Boston Day will serve as a reminder of what it means to be resilient.
Resiliency is the ability to bounce back to any obstacles.
Not giving up, not giving in.
Didn't get to finish the first time. We got stopped half a mile from the finish. They just stopped the race and we
came back next year and did it again.
That's right.
Through the city's healing process, first-time runner Carly Lindgren found motivation in Boston's ability to stay strong.
Boston is, if you could find a better way to put it, is, the worst city to mess with. Boston bounced back within, hours and just came together as one city and as one group of runners and as one community.
This year, more than 37,000 braved the cold and rain to cross the finish line. And whether it was greeting loved ones along the course or a helping hand from other runners, the 119th Boston Marathon was nothing but a success. For Temple Street, I'm Siobhan Sullivan with Olivia Powers.
Out of tragedy, Boston has transformed into a city known for its courage and survival, and the city will continue to commemorate April 15th in remembrance of lives lost and in honor of everyday heroes.
Although women have won many battles within women's rights, there are still major issues to be faced in the fight for gender equality. One of the most taxing issues is that of equal pay. Temple Street reporter Rachel Wardwell explains the fight to ensure equal pay for women.
Today, women make up nearly half of the workforce, from nurses to teachers to CEOs of successful corporations. The ability to acquire the same occupations as our male counterparts is not the concern, but rather the fairness of our wages.
Statistics go back to 2011, and they've jumped over 20 years from a 62% or 62 cents on the dollar to now over 81 cents on the dollar. So there still is a financial gap.
In 13 states, women are earning only 82% of their male coworkers' salaries, which is some of the highest in the country. However, the pay gap is even larger in Massachusetts. Even in female-dominated positions like nursing, women are earning only 79% of their male salaries. Deputy COO of a local Boston firm explains this imbalance.
Getting paid or their biases going on in the way a female was evaluated, or qualities that if a male had those same qualities, they would be viewed as a positive, whereas a female had them, they're viewed more negatively.
Now, women are fighting back. Even President Obama is heavily pushing the Paycheck Fairness Act, which would require employers to prove that any wage disparity is based on differences in skill, not gender. Major colleges are raising awareness at the heart of the issue. Suffolk University recently invited Boston Treasurer Deb Goldberg to speak to students.
Wage inequality and pay equity impact families. They impact the economic stability that people are able to achieve.
Educating women on this economic issue can encourage everyone to get involved in the fight. For Temple Street, I'm Rachel Wardwell.
The Boston Globe recently published an article projecting that Massachusetts might be able to close the gender pay gap by 2058.
95% of people who have eating disorders are under the age of 25. Temple Street reporters Kaya Dunn and Laura McGahee had the story on the prevalence of eating disorders on college campuses.
I never thought I was going to be in the situation that I ended up in. I thought it was just like innocent, and that's how it starts for a lot of people.
Though it may seem harmless at first, excessive dieting can do your body more harm than good, and it can leave you in a battle with your body image. Eating disorders can affect anyone, but in college, the pressure to be thin is overwhelming.
There's so many labels on food in college, like good food, bad foods, so much focus on like diet culture.
Media and diet culture can become your worst enemy when dealing with an eating disorder, but Suffolk University's Counseling Center is there to be your supporter.
We all get bombarded all the time with like messages of what your body is supposed to look like, and a lot of those are unattainable ideals.
Only 5% of American women possess the media's portrayal of the ideal body. Blevins suggests the focus should instead be on health.
More important than what you look like is what can your body do, and are you healthy, and are you doing things that are a healthy choice.
For Eating Disorder Awareness Week, Suffolk Supers held a Rock Your Body program to promote positive body image. With a rock and a pen, students wrote down what they love about their bodies.
It really got them to start thinking about like, oh, like I really do like this about my body, and I really do appreciate that I can do all of these things because of my great body.
Many college students struggle with body image, but Hansen says her experience with disordered eating spiraled out of control.
I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks with like a feeding tube and everything because I could no longer like control my eating disorder.
Hansen, who is on the road to recovery, insists that overcoming an eating disorder takes time and understanding from those around you.
Parents and loved ones have to be really patient because it's just part of the treatment. Like you're gonna fall down, it's not linear.
For Temple Street, this is Laura McGahee with Kaya Dunn.
Suffolk students who are struggling with an eating disorder can visit the Counseling Center on the 5th floor of 73 Tremont.
Along with the Counseling Center, the Health and Wellness Center might be a good place to stop by this semester. Suffolk is striving to make mental health a top priority with their new biofeedback technology. Alexa Kay has the story.
With the depression rates among college students rising yearly, universities across the country are looking for new ways to teach students how to cope with stress. Suffolk's new Director of Health and Wellness, Dr. Jean Joyce Brady, brought a new holistic approach focusing on prevention and stress management with biofeedback technology, massage chairs, and yoga.
There are many, many factors that contribute to why depression occurs, let's say particularly for college students. So I'm hoping that the new approach will help students come to feel more educated.
During a biofeedback session, electrodes are attached through finger sensors that send signals to a monitor on your screen. Grad Fellow and Health and Resources Counselor Carrie Pelock said that the center can help to de-stress students.
So if students know that these things are here in the Wellness Resource Center for them to use, it might become a preventative technique where we can have freshmen come here, when they're first starting out college.
Students' stress levels are especially high during finals. Many students say they are on edge because they either haven't slept in days, are overly caffeinated, or contemplating their next move after college, like Suffolk University senior Sophie Van Sturtigam.
I feel more stressed because it's all going to be over soon and I have to figure out what I have to do with my life.
Therapist Dr. Teresa Blevins says that the key ingredients to preventing depression are maintaining low stress levels and sleeping well.
I think that helping people be aware of what's going on for them, and helping people be maybe more connected with their body or more connected with just what their needs are in general, which is part of what the biofeedback's trying to do. So you said you tried it out. So the hope with that is that you can kind of hook up to it and start to learn like, oh, this is what my body feels like when it's relaxed.
Experts say exercise, sleep, and healthy eating are 3 simple and natural ways to maintain stress. Next time you feel yourself getting depressed, try taking a brisk walk. It's been proven to help. For Temple Street, this is Alexa Kay.
The new biofeedback technology is a great tool for Suffolk students to use. Come visit the Health and Wellness office next time you're feeling stressed.
With the bitter cold winter we had, Suffolk University students are ready to talk about their favorite spring trends this season. I got the scoop from students around campus.
Alright, so I think I have 2 favorite spring trends, and those would be sunglasses and lipstick.
My favorite spring trends are all the bright colors that come out for spring.
I like wearing button-ups and vineyard vine shorts with some Sperry's.
Probably midi skirts and pointy shoes, which is exactly what I'm wearing. I really like, they're like long,
so you're not cold, but they're sure enough that like it's a little breezy. And then pointy shoes make it look like you're wearing heels, but you're casual, so it's nice and comfortable.
I'm really into white jeans and botanical prints. I'm gonna have to say like florals probably. They look really good on girls, especially in sundresses.
I like colored pants and button-ups.
They got a whole new realm come spring. They got a lot of bright colors, some browns going on. As far as lipsticks, some like pinks, reds are my favorite for springtime. They have a lot of new fuchsia colors coming out, which I'm kind of into, so I'd say those are my favorite spring trends.
All this talk of spring clothing has me ready for the warm weather.
Tell me about it. This year brings a whole new meaning to the term spring fever. Still ahead, we have an interview with Carolyn Salvi, one of Suffolk's own gender studies professors. And stay tuned for our Critics Corner with Olivia Powers. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short break.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Hello and welcome back to Temple Street. Despite its success at the box office, the release of the highly anticipated film 50 Shades of Grey is at the forefront of discussions about gender representation. Temple Street reporter Siobhan Sullivan sat down with Suffolk's women's gender studies professor Carolyn Salvi to learn more about some of the criticism of the film.
I'm joined here by Suffolk University Women's Gender Studies Professor Carolyn Salvi. Carolyn, thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
My pleasure.
So, one of the most highly anticipated films of this year was the Valentine's Day release of 50 Shades of Grey, which in its opening weekend earned $85 million. To date, it has made more than $165 million domestically. Just what are your overall thoughts on the book being turned into a film and on the film in general?
What's remarkable about the 50 Shades phenomenon for me is a couple of things. One is the connection between the adult phenomenon of 50 Shades of Grey and the teen phenomenon of Twilight, because E.L. James has been quite frank that she basically wrote 50 Shades of Grey as sort of adult fan fiction of Twilight, reimagining the same kind of relationship that has been so heavily criticized between Edward Cullen and Bella Swan. And then, of course, the other interesting thing about it is the way that it has brought a public conversation about BDSM into the fore. It's not just that this is a film about sex, it's a film and a book about a particular kind of sex, which culturally we are both frightened by and titillated by.
Mm-hmm. Now, getting back to the BDSM part, this whole conversation about what it is and who practices it, a lot of forums are saying that it requires a lot of trust, connection, consent. So in this movie, do you think that the main character was raped in a way? Do you think this film, in a sense, perpetuates rape culture at all?
The option of consent is regularly taken away from Anastasia in the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. Even to the degree where she and Christian Grey sign a contract together and he violates it, which, aside from the ethical problems of it, I mean, simply as a businessman, you wouldn't do that, you would think, if you're going to be that wealthy. But obviously, he's so driven by his sexual needs that he can't control himself. It's terrible that her very clear boundaries are violated multiple times. Sometimes she enjoys it. Sometimes she's clearly not enjoying it.
Now, one of the biggest things I did want to talk to you about is feminism, the definition of it, because people seem to think, all feminists are women who hate men and they just want to get ahead in life. But it's really about gender equality, whether it's the pay wage or just, in films being given roles that men would get, as in doctors and things like that. So how do you explain what feminism is to your students?
It's about fairness. It's about justice, but it's also about understanding the relationships between social pressures and individual experiences so that we can make better sense of our own lives and make more conscious choices.
So there's a saying that the best person to watch 50 Shades of Grey with is a feminist. As a feminist, why is that true? Do you think the way you see things is totally different than the way someone else who's just going to see it to experience the movie would see it?
I think that any piece of art is actually made more enjoyable through careful conversation and consideration of the messages, the aesthetics, the modes of that piece of representation of reality, whether it's actually reality or fantasy. So I don't even necessarily think that's so much about seeing it with feminists as it is about seeing it with people that you can have a good conversation about it with.
How harmful, whether it's 50 Shades of Grey or this sexualization in the media, how harmful is that to young girls especially, but also just the younger generation in general?
So the more mainstream a young girl's media consumption patterns are, the more likely she is to have body image issues, engage in sexual acts that she may not fully want but may feel pressured into, and these girls also report a high level of not being able to be inside their bodies, enjoying themselves when they're engaging in sexual activity. I also know that my students, we were talking about this week in my class, report feeling like the sexual double standard is still very, very alive. That as a high school student, as a college student, you can either be a good girl or you can be a whore. But there's nothing in between. There's no way that our culture understands for women to express their sexuality in a way that's truly theirs.
Do you think that the media and TV and movies should be creating more strong female characters?
Absolutely. And I would love to see more characters that are working in a wider variety of professions, that are allowed to have more complex realities, that are allowed to have motivations that go beyond the marriage plot and the romance, which is a real problem with the Anastasia Steele character. But we're seeing it more and more. We actually really are. And I think that the work of Shonda Rhimes is an amazing example of feminism on television. There are a lot of female characters that have relationships with each other, and they have a lot of different kinds of conversations. And I want to see more of that. I want to see more of the richness of my life, which includes a professional dimension and a domestic dimension and a dimension of friendship with other women and men with whom I don't have sex. I want to see that made normal.
What actions do you think they should take to better represent feminists or feminism and women on screen and in the media to sort of act as role models for young women growing up?
The media could have a much broader vision of what an interesting story is. Wow, wouldn't it be phenomenal if we could see a movie about BDSM where the roles were reversed, right? Where a man could be the submissive partner and a woman could be the dominant one, and she wasn't castigated as a horrible person for being dominant and he wasn't emasculated for being a submissive. That would change it.
Now, is there just anything else you'd like to add about whether it's 50 Shades of Grey or representation of women in the media?
I think that 50 Shades is giving us an opportunity to have a conversation and destigmatize some of this sexuality, and I think that's great. I just wish we were doing it better. Whether you're talking about women or LGBTQ people or poor people or queer people or androids or whatever your imaginative story is, however you want to imagine the world, like find ways to tell those stories. You may not make $1 million off of it, but our world will be better for having you tell them.
Great. Carolyn, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. It was great seeing you again and talking to you.
My pleasure.
Back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Siobhan. I haven't seen 50 Shades of Grey, but now I'm intrigued.
I haven't seen it either, but I'm not sure that I want to pay $10 to see that type of film. Suffolk University illustration students were especially excited to meet local comic artists during the school's latest art show. Katie Martineau has more.
Thousands of people attend comic book conventions each year in hopes of seeing some of the best artists' work on display. Illustration majors at the New England School of Art and Design recently had the chance to interact with and view professionals' work up close, which ranged from comics to illustrations for magazines.
Getting some insight from people who are actually working in illustration, it's such a rat race to be a freelance illustrator, so seeing people who have actually been successful in their field is really kind of inspiring.
The Illustrators Talk with Pictures event featured presentations from 4 successful local artists, John Dykes, Andy Fish, David Gordon, and James Steinberg. They held a question and answer session as well as took time to view the student gallery and give insight on how to stand out in the field.
I find it almost like a puzzle to solve, to maybe shortcut some of the missteps I made during my early part of the career and highlight some of the more important areas.
Each year, the NESAD illustration program at Suffolk University features art shows where students display their work for anyone to come see. Students say the opportunity to present their artwork to professionals is exciting and gratifying.
It's a really, really strong program. There's people in it who are like really, really talented, and they're really coming into their own with their own distinct styles.
Illustration students are aware of how hard it is to succeed artistically and financially. However, one prominent comic artist says the key to success is simple.
The thing is, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Anybody can do this if they work hard, and that's what they have to do is work hard. And it looks like they are, so I think they're going to be okay.
For Temple Street, I'm Katie Martineau.
Keep an eye out for future art shows at the NESAD Gallery, located at 75 Arlington Street.
And now for our critic at large.
So Olivia, I understand you have your own take on feminism. Let's hear it.
Thanks, Veronica. People today have this sort of misconception about feminists. They think we only want to look like this, when in reality, some of us look like this, and of course we all want to look like this. The misconception about feminism is that we want to be the dominant sex to take over, when in reality we want to be treated as equals. By definition, feminism means the advocacy of women's rights on the grounds of political, social, and economic equality to men. Now let's examine these basic equalities we ask for. Women have been making strides in politics for more than 100 years. In fact, the first woman to run for president was Victoria Woodhull in 1887, well before women even had the right to vote. Fast forward to 2015, where Hillary Clinton is presumed to be the Democratic nominee for the 2016 election.
So I'm hitting the road to earn your vote, because it's your time. And I hope you'll join me on this journey.
For being such a progressive country, we are way behind other countries. The first female president, Isabel Martinez de Perón, held office in Argentina almost 40 years ago. In fact, there have been 41 elected and acting female presidents in the world to date. Yet some people are skeptical of a female head of state in this country. As for social equality, I think the stigma is about men are in question. Historically, men have been the breadwinners of their family, and women were the bread bakers. I think back to the 40s and 50s when the men went to work and had full power, and the women cooked, took care of the home, and raised the family. Now, I don't know about other people's families, but in mine, my dad does the cooking, my mom gives out the punishments, and they both work their tails off to provide for all of us. Today, there are 2 million stay-at-home dads, a number that has tripled over the past decade. More and more women have become financial head of household over the past 10 years, and a recent study says about 45% of American millionaires are women. The study suggests that by 2030, more than 66% of America's wealth will be in the hands of women. Yet the Institute for Women's Policy Research estimates the national gender pay gap will not close for more than 150 years. The current projected year for Wyoming, for instance, is 2159. I think the bottom line here is we've come a long way, but there's still quite a journey ahead of us. With celebrities advocating equal pay in the media,
time to have wage equality once and for all, and equal rights for women in the United States of America.
and politicians such as Hillary Clinton, Elizabeth Warren, and Michelle Obama setting the standard for female leaders, I think we're well on our way to a more equitable status to men. My philosophy, never send a man to do a woman's job, because in the end, he'll still get paid more.
I know Hillary will get my vote.
I agree. I think America's going to be ready for a woman in the White House in the near future.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Samantha Crompton.
I'm Olivia Powers.
And I'm Veronica Barber. Thank you for watching Temple Street. See you next time.